We're live from our studios here in Kokomlimle on digital address GA0992539. Our lead stories this hour. Police in Eastern Region begin a manhunt for gunmen who shot and killed a mobile money vendor as those who ply the trade demand tighter security. We are live in the Eastern Region where teachers have also abandoned a school following a bloody attack on officials by the students there.
Agent, this time around, in fact, there is nothing that we can do any moment from now. We are frustrated in the business and we feel like government have left our fate to us alone.
We'll hear more from the vendors in the Eastern Region there. Also coming up, Ecowas single currency suspended until 2027, 6 years away from a previous 2021 deadline. We hear from the Commissioner for Economic Policy and Research at the Ecowas Commission on feasibility of this agenda going forward, as only 6 out of the 16 member states have ratified the agreement. And President Akufo-Addo hits the road with a working tour to the Upper East region. We're live with his team on the ground for details as the trip comes on the back of security concerns raised in the border town. The Pulse is brought to you by Global Communities, Dignilu, Affordable Safe Sanitation. Join us on DSTV 421, Go TV 144. We're streaming online on YouTube as well. My name is Gifty Ando Apia. This is The Pulse. Please be my guest. You're welcome to the details of those stories now. Police in the Eastern Region have begun looking into circumstances that led to the killing of a mobile money vendor at Okrasi near Koforidua in the Akuapem North municipality. A team of police officers early today visited the scene where the deceased, Solomon Ahin, was gunned down by an unknown person. The 36-year-old was walking home with his friend when they were attacked by his assailant on Saturday around 11 p.m. Eastern Region correspondent Kofi Siao has been monitoring the situation for us. He's joining me to give us details. Hello, Kofi. Kofi, I hope you hear me now. And I know that you've been talking to people. Wrap it up for us, the story in a nutshell.
Okay, so the survivor of the attack, he doesn't want his name out and he doesn't want his face to appear for some reasons. And he says that he went to his friend in the evening on Saturday around 8 p.m. So they had some conversations, and throughout the conversation they discussed a whole lot of things, including politics and all that. So around 11 p.m. They closed from the shop, which is close to Okrasi in the Akuapem North district. So on their way, they spotted a tall man on the way. He was hiding in the dark, but it didn't occur to them that he had that intention of attacking them. So they moved straight to where he was, which is on the way to their house. So he told me that the young man shot them in the process, shot the deceased in the process, and he had to flee from the scene because he did not know the intentions of the man intentions of the man again. So he left the place, and all what he heard was that the man had been shot dead after he returned to his house when his sister told him about what had happened. So when he went there, he saw the young man lying in a pool of blood with his items, the bag, the laptop, and everything lying beside him.
That when we've had a few of them, some of the people who also mobile money vendors, they sound or seem terrified. What more can you tell us about the mood in the community where this killing happened?
When I went there, the association, the Mobile Money Agent Association, had come to the place. They came with their chairman, the secretary, and the public relations officer. So I spoke to the PRO of the association. He is Kwesi Ado, and he told me that they have security issues that they would want the government to attend to or address. So he says that for some time now, their members have been killed for some reasons, and they do not want that thing to happen again, because if it continues like that, what will happen is that the mobile money business is going to collapse.
Well, Kofi Sian has been speaking to some of them. Let's listen to them. And then, Kofi, hold on for me. We'll continue the conversation after this.
Looking at the growth of mobile money now, with its accompanying security challenges, it is something that we can no more handle it. And we believe that if measures are not really taken very soon, businesses like mobile money and all its related activities will fold up. And when that happens, what it means is that there's going to be so much chaos and inconvenience in the system, since mobile money is directly or indirectly related to every Ghanaian as we speak now. So for security issue, it is something that it is no more going to be an individual kind of fact, but we are expecting that government will really come on board, so that we'll all sit down to strike ways that we'll be able to fight or put in measures to curtail the rising incidence of robbery attacks on mobile money agents. This time around, in fact, there is nothing that we can do any moment from now. We are frustrated in the business, and we feel like government have left our fate to us alone, and we are struggling with the business. But it will interest you to know that every month the value of revenue that this business, mobile money agents, rake to government. In fact,
to your listeners and your cherished viewers, like you rightly asked, mobile money is one of the prime businesses now, and looking at the way and manner things are going, we want to plead on behalf of the people of the Mobile Money Agent Association of Ghana. The government is taxing us. The government have introduced a new tax policy on our cash out, which is 10%. And for that matter, we've petitioned the Ministry of Communication and that of GRA. And we want to plead with them that the way and manner things are going, if they don't sit down with us and trash issues with regards to the taxes, we want to tell them we are not happy at all. And as you stated earlier, we are here with regards to the issue that happened last Saturday. And Solo is a member of us. He paid his dues and everything, and therefore the need for us to be here to make sure that the needful is done. We will say on authority that we've realized that the Ghana police and his team, the regional police commander, crime officer, and the rest, they were all here at the scene this morning. And we want to use this media to express our profound gratitude to them. But we want proper things to be done, not only because he's deceased. We want the system to work efficiently for those of them who are alive and still working. And therefore, we are calling on all government and other partners to come to our aid and support this business so that we have a prime area to operate. That is the essence of me being here. Thank you very much.
Some mobile money vendors there with a lot of frustrations to go around. They believe that government has left them, or whoever is responsible has left them to their fate, despite the value they add to economic growth. Kofi, you're still there. They held a meeting today. Did they come up with any resolutions which they are supposed to be presenting anywhere to the regional security, authorities, for example?
Okay, so as I said before, the regional police command, the top hierarchy have been there this morning. I didn't meet them though, but what I'm told is that they've spoken to a lot of people around the place, and they've launched investigations into the matter. But the association says that they would want to cooperate with the Ghana Police Service in order to unravel the circumstances and arrest the person who shot their member.
I'm sure that with time we'll hear from the family members of Solomon if we haven't done that already. Do we have that?
Yes. What is happening is that Solomon is not a resident, or it's not from Koforidua where he stays. But I'm told he lives, or the family is somewhere outside Koforidua. So we'll be making an effort later on to get the family and speak to them and find out exactly how they feel and what efforts they are putting in to cooperate with the police.
And we are also making attempts to reach out to the Eastern Region Police Commander to also, get his perspective, get the perspective of security authorities there on all of these. But Kofi, this is not the only incident that's calling for attention in your region. You've been following the attacks on some teachers at the Accra Senior High School in the Somana district.
Yes, I have. What happened was that last Friday there was this student who had a confrontation with a teacher because the teacher had, caught him in cheating in an examination. So the teacher confronted him, and we were told that the boy had to hit the head of the teacher against a wall. And so the teacher also reported the case to the school security man who apprehended him, and on their way to the school's administration, the boy had to engage in a fight with the security man. So he stabbed him in the process, and the school authority had to call in the police because the situation was getting out of hand. So when the police came, it turned into a brawl between them and the school children. So they couldn't arrest anybody, and we are told that as of now, the teachers are not willing to go back to the classroom.
Let me get this clear. First of all, how is the security officer who was stabbed? Is he all right? Do we know?
Yes, for now, he's been admitted at the hospital and he's receiving treatment. We were told by some of the school authorities that the security man is responding to treatment.
You talk about police being called in, those who eventually were engaged in a brawl with the student. Are these officials of the Ghana Police Service or local sort of safe community?
They are not, as I want to put it, proper police officers. These are community police officers, that is the National Youth Employment Police officers that they recruited. So they came in and they weren't able to arrest the guy because his friends and colleagues in the school also resisted that they took him away.
As it stands now, you say that the teachers do not want to return. Hang on for me, Kofi. Let me bring in the Eastern Regional Police Public Relations Officer, ASP Ebenezer Tete. Sir, thank you for your time. Good afternoon. ASP Ebenezer Tete, can you hear me, please?
Good afternoon. Please, the name is DSP Ebenezer Tete. DSP
Ebenezer Tete. Thank you very much for that correction there. Can you start by giving us what your preliminary investigations reveal?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. This particular incident is coming to me as a surprise because I have not officially seen it on the regional police official platform, but I will encourage the school authorities, if the narration given by the reporter is true, crime has been committed, and the local police, that is the Somanya or the Odumasi police, attention must be drawn quickly to the issue for them to take up the matter. Because from the reportage of the reporter on the ground, it looks like it was not the local police that was called in, but rather the community protection officers. I don't know whether it was the local police that deployed them to the school to go and bring the situation under control. But this is something that the local police will be interested in, and they will take proper action so that the that ambience for the
I'm sure
to go about the academic activities without any fear of impact. You will have affection. And the local police will also be taxed. Will also stamp the authority to ensure that law and order prevails in the school, so that academic activities can go on without any problems at all.
I'm sure that with time, now that we're just talking to you is when you're getting the information, as you say. So with time, we will be able to get some more details about this.
Exactly.
As it stands now, the teachers are refusing to go back to school. Perhaps they want some more protection, maybe from you and your men. So we'll get some more of that subsequently. But the mobile money vendor who has been shot, what do you have for now?
Thanks very much again. We visited the scene of crime earlier this morning. We did some reconstruction and did some few interrogation at the scene, and a lot of things are coming up. Shot around 11:45 p.m. and from all indications, his assailant shot him not because of the valuables that he was having in his possession and the money, total to about 9,000 plus cedis. He was shot and he struggled, and when fell at a location about 70 meters away from the location where he was shot. Information we are also picking indicates that the assailant was seen lurking around the area around 9 p.m. and he stood there until the victim appeared with his colleague after he had closed from the mobile money shop around 11 o'clock. He shot him at close range. So there are some information that we are picking, and for purposes of investigation, and then in order not to jeopardize the course of investigation, give a lot of information out there, we would like to withhold some of those information close to our chest. It appears he was killed not because of the money, neither was he killed because of the valuables, the mobile phones, the laptops, and other things he was having in his possession, because all those things were intact when we visited the scene and we saw him lying in the pool of blood.
So money was intact, mobile money, laptops, all of these items were intact.
Everything was intact. Everything was intact. So we are actually spreading our tentacles wider and thinking beyond the box as we have picked those information now. We are going to extend our investigation very, very wide. Okay. There are a lot of people who will be roping, and there are certain information, as I've told you, we have picked, and these are not good for public consumption as we speak now. So we would like to keep those information as investigation progress.
Fair enough, but let's look at the bigger picture generally. We have spoken to mobile money vendors who are raising concerns about the security, the state of security for them and for their work in the midst of this. What does the police tell people who are feeling this insecure, especially when one of their own has just been killed?
Yes, we sympathize with the mobile money vendors. If there's any association like that.
There is.
And what we have noticed is that those who are into the mobile money business and they do the mobile money business at places that are a bit secluded or in the night, the place is not well lit. Used to encounter some of these problems. This is not the first time we have had mobile money vendor being attacked in the region. It's been happening, and we've taken pains to engage some of them and actually talk to them about the fact that they should look at the time they close, where they operate, and all those things should be factored. They should be factored in. If the place we are operating is a soft target for some of those criminals, if you continue to be there in the wee hours of the night, the target becomes more softer for them to attack you. You understand? So we want to advise them that yes, we will do all that we can to ensure that some of those things that happens, especially the attacks on the mobile money vendors, reduced to the barest minimum. But they also must factor their own security, into consideration. They should at least.
I need to wrap up now, DSP Ebenezer Tete, but just a quick one. They have called for a meeting between you and them, hopefully, so that you can come to an arrangement of sort. Is this meeting something you can do immediately?
We are prepared to engage them further. As I've told you, this is not the first time we've been engaging with them. There were times, those incidents were rampant in the region, and we engaged them and we strategized. So that attack on mobile money vendors has reduced drastically in the region. But as I'm telling you, this particular one appears to be there's a certain trend we are picking. That's why I'm telling you that it is too early for us to.
That's okay.
To be, letting the cat out of the bag.
That's okay. That's okay. We'll say a very big thanks to you, sir, for your time. And hopefully you get to meet the mobile money vendors so you can re-strategize, like you said. DSP, thank you. DSP Ebenezer Tete speaks for the Eastern Region Police. My colleague Kofi Sian is still here. Kofi, wrap it up for us. Have authorities or education authorities in the area any idea what is happening at Accra Senior High School, and have they said anything?
Okay, as of now, we've not made contact with the education authorities. I tried speaking to the school's headmaster, but I couldn't reach him. We're going to make effort to speak to them later on, as well as the authorities of education in the area, to find out exactly what they are doing about the incident.
Kofi, thank you very much. Kofi Sian, the correspondent for our Eastern Region there. Well, we're still talking about security, and security expert with the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center, Professor Kwesi Eni, says the arrest of over 200 suspected criminals by the police after a wave of robberies in the capital raises questions about the effectiveness of the intelligence unit of the police. The police over the weekend rounded up the suspects in various locations in the capital and have assured of swift screening and prosecution. The aim is to determine whether or not they are connected to the bullion van attack and other violent crimes that have hit the capital. Here is Accra Region Police Public Relations Officer DSP Efiatenge.
The Regional Police Command, Accra, has embarked on what we call an enhanced operational exercise within some locations in Accra. And after the 3-day comprehensive exercise, we have been able to arrest 215 suspected criminals in locations such as Kolebu, Tesano, Amasaman, Nima, Dansoman, Abokobi, Accra Central, Teshi, Madina, Bachona, Jamestown, Osu, and also Lakeside. And among the 215 suspected criminals, 17 of them were women, and the age range were between 17 and 52 years. Though this particular exercise forms part of series of exercises by the command since the beginning of this year, this particular operation was part of efforts to fight violent crimes, especially street robberies and drug peddling in Accra. And most of the items or exhibits that were retrieved include wrapped narcotic substances, sharp implements like machetes, screwdrivers, and any other offensive weapon that can be employed in the use in facilitating criminal activities. And also the police also intercepted some mixtures of concoction which were laced with narcotics substances, and we also retrieved some tramadol. The operation also targeted and impounded 168 motorbikes, which is believed to be used in facilitating the street robberies we see these days on the streets of Accra.
DSP Efia Tenge speaks for the Accra Region Police, and she's counting on the public support to connect the suspects to the reported crimes. But security expert Professor Kwesi Ening says the arrest coming on the heels of the recent robberies, including the attack on a bullion van, rather questions the intelligence unit of the police.
Are all these over 200 people related to that one crime? Or they are people who have been known to be criminals and have been roped in now in the hope that they will provide some sensitive intelligence. Now, if all these people are related to this one crime, then it means the quality of police intelligence in terms of getting information needs to be improved. Because as you well know, in any operation, the more people get involved, the easier it is for the information to leak. You know, so I'm hoping that these guys come from other previous crimes, or they have a history with the Ghana Police Service, so they've just been roped in to provide some extra intelligence.
That's Professor Kwesi Ening there. Now let's talk about money, because it definitely has everything to do with the state of security. Now, member states of the Economic Committee of West African State, Ecowas, have fixed 2027 for full implementation of a single currency, the ECO. Members have been given 2022 and 2026 to meet the 11 convergence criteria, including an end of year single inflation and fiscal deficit of more than 4% of GDP for qualification. So far, only 6 out of the 16 member states have ratified the agreement. Addressing a news conference to climax the ordinary summit of ECOWAS here in Accra, President of the Commission, Jean-Claude Cassibro, said the revised date of the ECO is as a result of the coronavirus pandemic on the economy of member states.
So there was a long discussion on the result of those reflections that were discussed at the level of the ministerial committee, and the Council of Ministers also discussed that. And finally, I think what is really, I think, very impressive is that on a very difficult matter, I think President Akufo-Addo really was very, very successful in having all the member countries on board to have a new commission that will be put in March 22 to really, with 7 commissioners from the current 15 commissioners. That's an extremely big achievement. I really want to really thank really the President, the Chair of Authority, President Akufo-Addo, because it was not really at the beginning something easy to achieve. But today, all 15 member countries agreed to have the reform of the Ecowas institution and to bring the number of commissioners from 15 to 7 commissioners. And I think that was, if there is one thing that we can take out of this summit, is this achievement and important decision that was made by the head of state and government. We also had, in terms of the single currency, a new roadmap and a new convergence pact, and the convergence pact that will cover the period 22-26, and the 27 being the launching of the ECO. So that's also a very big decision, because you recall, due to the COVID, the shock given by COVID, the head of state had decided to suspend the implementation of the Convergence Pact in 2020 and 2021. So now, they also decided that the Ministerial Committee should look at a new roadmap, a new Convergence Pact, to take into account the lesson that have been taken in, that we could take from the previous pact. So I think this is now something that has been done. The Ministerial Committee has presented the result, the new roadmap, and the new Convergence Pact that was adopted by the head of state and government. There are some other issues that need to be solved, but I think this is a key achievement for the single currency. So I'll stop here.
All right, so let's have a quick conversation on this. Joining me via Zoom is a Commissioner for Macroeconomic Policy and Economic Research at the Ecowas Commission, Dr. Kofi Konadu Apreku. Doc, thank you very much for your time. Good afternoon. I think you're muted. If you will hit the unmute button, we can hear you. Okay, well, let's try and work on this so we can hear Dr. Kofi Konadu Apreku on this. Doc, I do hear you.
I think I'm back.
Yes, perfect.
Is it okay now?
It is. Thank you very much for your time once again.
Thank you. I'm pleased to join you for this important discussion.
Now, the concept of a single currency was first raised by ECOWAS in 2003. That's a long time ago. Its introduction, however, seems to be hitting multiple delays. Are we still confident that we can achieve this agenda, you think?
It's a major challenge, and it's not unique to ECOWAS. You know, if you look at the European Union, it took much closer to 50 years before they were able to converge, before they were able to accept the currency. So it has been the nature of the situation when you have 15 member countries with diverse population, diverse economic programs, and state of development. All put together means tremendous amount of effort must go into the process to get us all converging, or majority of us converging at a particular point in time that will facilitate the introduction of the currency. Now, you say that the EU, had similar challenges. They spent about 50 years to do this. So that's the main reason why someone will say we have an example to learn from. No need reinventing the wheel. Isn't that a reasonable position? Absolutely. There are lessons that we have learned. We continue to learn. My department is almost always in touch with the European Union. We seek advice, we work with them. But the matter is, the issue is that our economies are very fragile. All the economies are fragile. And we have not successfully been able to have stability for a long period of time without disruption. Economic development is a process you build on. Our situation is such that sometimes you take one step forward, two steps backward, and it makes it very difficult. It looks like I've lost you, Doc. Let's see if we can get we can get you back. I'm talking to Dr. Kofi Konadu Apreku, who is the Commissioner for Economic Policy and Economic Research at the Ecowas Commission. We're looking at our agenda for the countries within ECOWAS to spend the same currency, which is the ECO. It's taking us years and we have not reached there yet. We're looking at feasibility going forward, even as only 6 countries out of the 16 have rectified this. Doc, you were making a point about lack of stability in the sub-region, as well as how fragile our economies are. Yes. When the COVID hit, it's basically destroy everything. We are weak already, and this hit us very hard. Governments were forced to produce resources, make resources available for projects they never contemplated about. Businesses were shut down. All of this put together made it almost impossible for anything to move. Before that, you remember we had set 2020 as the deadline for the convergence. When we hit 2020, only one country, and that is Togo, had met all the 4 primary convergence and the 2 secondary convergence criteria, in which case there was no possibility. And so COVID came in and made it what was maybe a possibility completely impossible. So now, the lessons are there for all of us. If we are serious, we have to find a way to manage the economies better than we are managing for all the countries. I was in touch with the European Union sharing experiences, and what they told me that lacks in West Africa is that the citizens are not involved in the process. When governments go out to borrow money, they go to the parliament to get it approved for them to borrow. Parliament knows the level of indebtedness of our countries, but nevertheless, they approve for governments to go and borrow. And when they borrow, they exceed the convergence criteria. They are not able to meet it. The European Union, there was public pressure on the countries, and parliaments refused to take actions that would derail the process of convergence. We don't have it in West Africa. So these are some of the lessons we are trying to get our people to be involved in. When you run budget deficit, you will meet the convergence criteria. When your public debt is so huge, you will not meet. When your policies are inflationary, you will not meet the convergence criteria. There's nothing magical, because what goes in comes out. And what we put in is what we get. So if there was a deeper commitment in West Africa to have the currency, we would have the currency.
I see it, as you've lined it up, as lack of commitment, borrowing, which has become a big conversation here in Ghana, impeding our efforts at this. I want you to, Doc, just run us through the criteria, if you may, apart from the ones that we've already indicated, a single-digit inflation and end of year fiscal deficits, etc. Can you run us through, in a very simplified manner, if I should say, the criteria?
We have two sets, what we call the primary convergence criteria. There are 4 of them. The first one deals with your budget deficit. Budget deficit is the amount that government is not able to rectify and correct with their own mobilized resources. And that the threshold is that it must not be more than 3% of GDP. And that very few countries in our sub-region are able to meet. The second one is that your annual inflation rate on average must not exceed 5%. In other words, price increases per year must not go beyond 5%. Then the central bank, all our central banks loan money or give credit to the government to finance its activities. And because in our system, most of the governors are not respectfully independent of government. When the government says, I want to borrow, they say how much you want to borrow. And all of it affects us. The convergence criteria says that you cannot borrow more than 10% of the previous year's tax revenue. In other words, you're borrowing from your central bank to finance your budget should not exceed 10% of the total revenue of the previous year. The fourth one is the gross external reserves. Your reserves that stand to supplement your activity must not be less than 3 months to cover all your imports. Then the other one is the nominal exchange rate. The exchange rate, all of us, we know the challenges that we have. Our currencies are very unstable, and the arrangement is that it should not vary for more than 10% per year. And then what we call HIPIC, your total public debt must not be more than 70% of your GDP. And that is very critical. Government borrow with good intentions, but maybe sometimes you do not invest those borrowing in enterprises or in activities that generate quickly enough returns for us to be able to meet the debt obligations. And when we become HIPIC, it makes it very difficult. There are less resources available to do the things that we desire to do, and therefore our economies deteriorate.
I mean, Ghana is known to be one of the, very admired and admired countries, and very considered a leader in among the Ecowas states. Are you disappointed? I mean, we have you as a Ghanaian at this place. Does it disappoint you that Ghana was not able to meet these criteria last year?
Well, every Ghanaian will wish that we met the convergence criteria. It's only natural. And when it happens that you are in charge of it, then it makes it even more important. Ghana was doing very well in terms of some of the macroeconomic indicators before COVID. The rate of growth, for example, has been very good, one of the highest, and we were all proud. But unfortunately, a few other variables have not gone the way we would wish. And it is my job as a professional, not as a politician, to point it out when there is a need to do so. And I think we have to begin to take a serious look at the management of our resources and the amount of resources that we borrow and how they are invested. Because at the end of the day, if you borrow and you invest and you get greater returns, there's no problem. But when you are financing debt with additional debt, in other words, you are borrowing to pay off earlier debts, then you are in trouble. And we must do all we can to avoid that.
With our borrowing appetite as a country, we've seen the previous administration borrow. The current administration at the time criticized it. Now the current administration is borrowing and people are saying we can't stop borrowing. Does that even make the ability to achieve the single currency rather far off?
It will not make it easier to achieve the single currency. You asked me a professional question and I've answered it professionally. No, it will not. But the fact of the matter is that our people must understand that there's no free lunch anywhere. So when you borrow money, invest it in an area that will generate the returns to allow you to facilitate the payment of the debt, because it's not free. We should not look at it for free. And those who have been put in position to manage them should know that it's a major obligation on our part, because we are compromising our country. I'm not talking only about Ghana, I'm talking in general terms. We are compromising the future of our country when we are borrowing and investing and not generating the returns that are commensurate with the obligations that we have to do in respect of making those payments, because none is free. None is free. Okay. When you look at the private sector, there's a lot to learn about it. When private sector borrows money, they borrow money and invest it in projects that the returns are good enough for them to make the profit and pay off. It is the same. Governments must treat the resources available to us in the same manner. It is the people's resources, and I'm talking in generality, not particularly in reference to Ghana, but it's the people's resources that are being invested. They should be invested in areas that will generate the highest return to help facilitate the development of the totality of our country.
Doc, let's finish up this conversation with the way forward. I know that we've talked about the challenges that we've faced trying to, reach that single currency level. The challenges are there, but are there any good things? What are the positive things that the countries in the body have that can actually help speed up this process so that we can perhaps begin to exploit those avenues?
Well, I wish I could be so optimistic about these things, because never before we have more terrorist activities in our respective countries than we are having now. Too many destabilizing forces have been unleashed on us. Not the least of this is this terrorist and criminal activities that are going on in almost all our countries now. Neighbors, we have been spared, but we should not relent. And I'm glad, and I want to congratulate the president for making investment in preventing some of these terrorist activities in countries so close to us. That is almost invariable. That if measures are not taken, they will get to us, such as Burkina Faso. They are brothers, we share a common border. It's become, this year, the number of people that have been killed by terrorist activity in Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, Chad, it's just staggering and very scary. So we have to be very careful, not lose our guide, and we have to use the resources available to us, investing the highest in the areas that will give us the highest possible rates of return. Managing the economy of country is like managing the economy of a business. Businesses tend to be more careful than sometimes it is the case in the public sector.
So I was actually asking for what good footing we have, even from now that we've suspended it until 2027. Between now and 2027, what is that good thing that we have as countries within ECOWAS that we can explore or exploit to reach our goal of 2027 single currency?
Well, good for us. Measures are being taken to provide these vaccines that will reduce the impact of COVID. I think it's become the greatest threat to us. So once we can reduce the impact of COVID and the level of infections of it, and it seemed to be the trend. Now it's the downward trend throughout our countries, and that is very good. We should continue to make efforts to get the vaccines, and people should be willing to access it when it's available. That is one good thing. Second, we have seen some trends now. Maybe when you go so low, you have to come up. Most of the economies are recovering gradually, and so we believe that if we can have a peaceful environment for us to operate, if we can deal with the issue of COVID and governments have the attention and the devotion and the tenacity to hold on and move forward, I think the prospects are good. For example, it's projected that our GDP growth for this year will be far better than it was last year and the previous year. That means there is some trajectory for us to begin a positive growth rate, and that is very encouraging. So the forces that can move us out of the current situation are beginning to show, and that to me is getting control over COVID and getting control over growth again, the decline. And if we deal with this terrorist activity and destabilization in various countries, I believe we'll be back on the trajectory for a better future for ourselves and for our children.
It sounds good, and it's always been exciting that the idea that countries within the ECOWAS will get to spend the same currency. So we'll see how it goes. Doc, if there's anything else you'd like to add as we wrap up, I'll take that.
Well, I want to say hello to all Ghanaians. I've been away for a long time, but inshallah, I'll be home very soon. We look forward to seeing you. We look forward to succeeding, to you succeeding in that position, so that we can say proudly that it was a Ghanaian effort at this level that brought us all to the point of spending the same currency in ECOWAS. Thank you, Doc. That's Dr. Kofi Kunedu Apreku. He is the Commissioner for Economic Policy and Economic Research at the ECOWAS Commission. You're watching The Pulse with me, Gifty Ando up here. We look forward to spending that money in 2027. Hopefully, we'll get there. Do stay. We'll be right back with some more. You're welcome back to the show. Many thanks for staying with us. Now, Ghana has been ranked the second most peaceful country in Africa in the 2021 Global Peace Index report by the Institute for Economic and Peace, IEP. Ghana is ranked 38 in the world out of 163 countries reviewed. According to the index, the average level of global peacefulness deteriorated by 0.07% this year. Joining me via Zoom is head of our research desk, Raymond Akwa. Raymond, so let's look at the report and how it captures the level of peace, for example, in Africa. Let's start with the methodology it adopts. Run us through it. Hello, Raymond. Looks like Raymond cannot hear me, but what you see on the screen is where Ghana stands. Now, Ghana comes right after Mauritius. Yes, now? Perfectly. I hear you. Go ahead, Raymond.
Brilliant. So this is the 15th edition of the Global Peace Index. This basically ranks over 163 independent states and territories according to their level of what they call peacefulness. And you did mention that this is produced by the Institute of Economics and Peace. The most important part here is that there are three key criteria for determining where you fall. And the GPI basically covers 99.7% of the people on not only the continent, but also the world, using 23 qualitative and quantitative indicators from what they consider to be highly respected sources. One of them you should know is in two forms: the level of societal safety and security. That's part of the criteria. The second one is the extent of ongoing domestic and international conflict. And the very last one is the degree of militarization. Those are the three that they use to determine where you fall. Okay. Now, you talk about Ghana's ranking. I'll be coming to that. But one interesting phenomenon you should know is that there's a general position that we can see. Generally, the world has realized a little bit of problem when it comes to the level of peace. It deteriorated by 0.07%. That's on the general scene. In fact, this is the 9th deterioration in the peacefulness in the last 13 years, a sign that they complain about. Though 87 countries made some improvements, 73 actually deteriorated, which is also a very bad sign after making some successive improvements over the last 3 years. Now, another point you should know is that the change in the score is the smallest in the history of the index. That's a very key point, mindful of what happened. Now, you asked the question about when this survey was done, so that we put it in proper perspective. We are talking about somewhere March 2020 to April this year. So from last year to this year, except that it's a little bit over a year, for a period. Much of what they did is also to rely on existing data, which is also being used for the categorization. In a sum, Iceland remains the most peaceful country in the world. It has been so since 2008, and it is joined at the top by countries like New Zealand and also Denmark, Portugal, Slovenia, and Afghanistan. Remains the least peaceful country in the world, a position it has held for 4 consecutive times. This is followed by Yemen, Syria, South Sudan, and that is the only African country at the bottom. It's talking about those who are there. There's also Iraq at the bottom too. In fact, all of these countries, except Yemen, have been ranked among the 5 least peaceful countries for a very long time, at least since 2015. So that's basically, when you put it together, this is the picture it paints, except you want to dwell on Ghana specifically.
Yes, I want us to dwell on Ghana specifically and the countries within Ghana's category, for example, because then we can begin to do a little bit of comparison at that level. If they looked at the indices you mentioned, societal safety and security, domestic conflict and international conflict as well, then the degree of militarization, and they compare a country like Ghana, for example, to, as we see here on the list, Cote d'Ivoire, obviously Ghana will be on top. If they compared it to, let's say, Liberia, Ghana will be on top. But it's interesting when you see Sierra Leone as well, Raymond, at number 4. It means that generally we have done well. I mean, the countries are the, say, top 10.
Yes, the Ghana's position is good, even though in actual form, there is a slight deterioration when it comes to the score change. So if you see there, it's in negative. And it's not negative as in negative that affects your position, but negative that affects your score, and not also overall ranking. One point you should also note is that Ghana actually inched up compared to the previous report. Ghana inched up by 2 percentage points and positions too. So that's what's good about our current position. Even though when we do it on the world stage, we are 38. And it's also significant, the difference between the very first country, that is Mauritius and Ghana, which is almost like a 10-point difference between Mauritius and Ghana. We're still number 2 on the Sub-Saharan Africa section, and that region has others coming in. It's also not surprising because watch how Botswana has consistently been around Ghana when it comes to some of these reports. There is a point that we need to dwell a little bit of, and that is some part to do with countries in positive peace deficit. And this is a criterion determining countries that are likely to fall outside what's supposed to be the good range in the next decade. Now, if you want to take that on quickly, one point you should know is that apart from just having the wonderful news of doing well so far, countries that have the tendency of not going the direction of wonderful countries includes Ghana. And that's what's called the countries in possibly the positive peace deficit. And this is explained by countries that are likely to go into trouble within the next decade. And when they compare 2009 to 2019, and table 5.1 makes the point clearly that of the 39 nations in positive peace deficit, 21, that's 67%, recorded deterioration in the peace in the subsequent decade. So even though Ghana is on the list, possibly the country at the highest level on that case is Sierra Leone. The second one is Equatorial Guinea. The third one is Timor, and the fourth one is Angola. Ghana is at number 15, and you can see it down there. The only difficulty with being on this list is that your peace and the current improvements you have made may more likely not go the way you want it in the nearest future. Okay. And that's how terrible it can be. That's perhaps the only point that policy makers will have to take note of, looking into the future, putting in sustainable plans and policies that may make us improve and not deteriorate further or deteriorate at all when we look at this particular point.
So what bottom line, as you wrap up, Raymond, is that if you look at the period under review at the moment, this is last year, and so there are still things that have happened that have not been taken into account as far as this piece of work is concerned. And so, like you point out rightly, the positive peace deficit is the area that perhaps Ghana wants to take more seriously.
Very much so. And in fact, the report even acknowledges that since we are still in the throes of the pandemic, there are a lot of indicators that have come up across after they actually collected data that's worth reviewing. In fact, I suspect that the next report would properly capture the entirety of the pandemic period and how peace and all of the specific issues they have raised panned out within that period. So a question I'll be interested in is, how peaceful were the nations and the ranking of these nations within the pandemic? Because we know what has happened across the world during the period.
Of course, this is a good, unique selling point, something that we could use for our investments, promotion drive, etc. But it also gives a lot of information that we can use to work towards, getting to that state of perfection, if you like. But it's exciting to know that Ghana is number 2, or the second most peaceful country in Africa. Raymond, thank you very much. Raymond Akwa is head of research here at JoyNews. So, well, if you're a Ghanaian, you should be excited for a second peaceful country. But of course, like Raymond said, there are still areas of potential deterioration that's really up to us to work out. Now, President Akufo-Addo is promising that a permanent army barracks will be set up in the Upper East region to help deal with terrorist threats around the border areas there. Addressing the paramount chief of the Boko traditional area in the Upper East region, where he is currently on a one-day visit, the president said government was well aware of the threats from terrorists from neighboring Burkina Faso, and that the security forces are being beefed up to be able to deal with such threats.
For these murderers and criminals who want to destabilize and terrorize our lives in Ghana.
If you are for solo Mawosa, for solo Manabukina for so Netogola, if you are Nimambe to Kabambepala, Kabambepukina, Kabambepala, then I can't take any bunny, Kuni Bakina Bepala, Pompiala, Namakore, and yet to the artist.
Whenever you are aware of the measures that the government is taking to strengthen the security agencies here and protect us from terrorist attacks emanating from Burkina Faso.
If me, Bonkan Kotum, Soldier and Bepala, Police Bepala, so of me on to Tunisia, and Nidibakuna, Ghana, Ghana.
And I'm happy to inform you that a permanent barracks is going to be established here in this area to be able to address the issue of terrorism.
The barracks na be bazuela na la de ko aye barracks wa patente ne kare wa ya de ani yo kene ke soja na mabapala sifa nyanga gos tum kanato.
That's President Akufo-Addo in the Upper East Region. Correspondent Albert Sori is joining us via Zoom. Albert, do we know what has informed President Akufo-Addo's promise to set up this, barracks with Nuno? I mean, apart from the general security concerns that we all know about.
Yes, Gifty. So the president was responding to the paramount chief of the Boko traditional area, Asigiri Azoka II, when he addressed the president before he spoke. And one of the concerns that the chief raised was the issue of security in that area. You know, Boko is one of the hotspots as far as security is concerned because of the years of ethnic conflict in the past. So the paramount chief was basically talking about security generally in the area and the need for the president to beef up security in the midst of the threats that are also coming from neighboring Burkina Faso. So this was what the president was responding to when he talked about setting up a permanent military barracks. Already, there is a military post at Bazua, which is not too far away from Boko. It is in the Binduri district. There are some soldiers who are stationed there. And so the president is basically saying that this barracks will be set up as a permanent base to help deal with some of these security threats that have become a concern for many Ghanaians.
Where is the president at the moment? And if you know, walk us through the rest of his activities there.
Yeah, so the president is just wrapping up his tour. We are just heading back to the Regional Coordinating Council. After addressing the Boko Naba, the president also visited the leadership of the Mamprusi area in Boko. He has also come to visit the Binduri chief as well. Initially, the people had come out anticipating that the president was going to address Ideba. That has now been called off, we understand, because of the COVID-19 protocols. So Ideba, he was set to address in the Binduri district. Remember, the Binduri district is the only constituency in which the MPP won a parliamentary seat in the Upper East region. So the anticipation had been that the president will address the people there. But that Deba has been called off. He's also come to the Bolgatanga East constituency, where he just commissioned a new assembly office building. You know, the Bolga East constituency is one of the new ones that were set up recently. So they have just finished a new building for the assembly, for the district assembly. And the president was there to commission it. The people had also gathered anticipating that after the commissioning, the president was going to address them. But that did not also happen because we understand the president wants to stick to the COVID-19 protocol. So he's wrapping up the tour, and we are just coming back to the Regional Coordinating Council.
Albert, thank you very much. I'm sure that we'll get more subsequently. Albert Sori is our Upper East Region correspondent there. Now let's take our attention to security in the Ashanti region. 3 siblings from the Obuasi suburb of Gosu, arrested for flaunting guns in a video which went viral, say they regret their action. The siblings say they are innocent of any criminal act. One of them, Apostle Alfred Dakura, has been speaking to Ohimin Teria of our security desk on how they acquired the guns.
The video recording shows the siblings brazenly displaying pistols and a pump-action gun. Apostle Alfred Dakura, Richard Suleiman and Emmanuel Dakura, aged 43, 28 and 26 respectively, reported themselves to police. After heavy public condemnation, Though police are yet to receive any public complaints against the three, one of them has since been granted bail. In his first ever media interview after the arrest, Apostle Alfred Dakura, head pastor of Obuasi-based God's Time Prayer Ministry, says he and his brothers are already reeling under the criminal tag imposed on them. According to him, the arrest of the siblings has already affected his church's membership.
We don't blame anybody because we ourselves, we did the video. So we don't have anything to blame anybody, but rather we blame ourselves for doing such video. We truly regret. Why? Because we didn't know that such video would come out and bring a lot of issue in the country and also affecting the family. And for that reason, we truly regret for doing such video. Now, the entire family, everybody is crying because we have been tagged that we are armed robbers. And it's a bad family. And even for myself as a pastor, even yesterday I was in church to preach. The congregation, only few people came because a lot of people are saying that the man of God is an armed robber.
Apostle Dakura has also been explaining how he and his brothers got the guns. According to him, he only used his licensed pump-action gun at the funeral of his late grandmother in performance of traditional Dagati rites. His brothers, together with other residents of Tapo in the Nadoli Kalio district of the Upper West region, seized the pistols without magazines from people who wanted to take over a Galamsey site in that community.
The pump action gun is my own gun, it's my registered gun. And then also where I come from in my culture at Dagati, at Wa, during funerals, we do shoot guns and other things for our rituals. So my grandmother died, and as a leader of the family, it's my duty to go there with a gun so that we can use the gun to perform the funeral. So that's the reason why I took the gun from Obuasi. When someone dies, before the family will even start to cry, there have to be a gunshot before we will start to cry.
So where exactly was the video recorded?
It was recorded in Upper West region, Tapo, Nware. The funeral was 26 November 2020.
From Kumasi, for Joy News, Oyinteria reporting.
Oyinteria is a member of the security desk here at Joy News. Now, the overlord of Mamprugu, Nabohagu Abdullahi Sheriga, has expressed deep concern over the delay in commencing the construction of the Pwalugu multipurpose dam project. According to the overlord, the delay in starting the project is fueling suspicion among his people that the project could be a political promise and may not see the day of light. The overlord has therefore appealed to the government to hasten the implementation of the project as quickly as possible. Na Bohagu was speaking at the palace in Nalarugu when officials of the Volta River Authority paid a visit to him to present an environmental impact assessment report for the project.
When the president came and launched the project in Pwalugu, and there was great excitement and anticipation that the project would be implemented as quickly as possible. But from the look of things, it looks like the project implementation is slow, and he doesn't know what is causing the delay. But he would rather appeal to the government to hasten or facilitate the implementation of the project as quickly as possible, so that he, the Nigerian, will be very proud that it happened during his reign. President will be happy that after he leaves the scene, he has left a great legacy for the people of Northeast. So that is his appeal. And the compensation that has been mentioned, he hopes that it will be implemented also, so that he, the Nigerian, will not be seen as deceiving his people to accept a package that never came on.
The Fix the Country campaigners have urged an Accra High Court to dismiss a case seeking to restrain them from embarking on a street protest. The campaigners say only a police officer can make a request under the Public Order Act to restrain protesters from hitting the streets. They have in the last few weeks demanded better living conditions through a social media protest, but the decision to take this into the streets has been opposed by the police service with public health concerns as basis. Attorney General Godfrey Adame on the morning showed up in court to argue against the street protest, but the campaigners say this is unlawful. Court correspondent Joseph Akable reports.
A member of the legal team for the campaigners, Julius Asinyo, urged the court to dismiss the case. He explained that it cannot hear a matter bordering on the Public Order Act filed in the name of the Republic instead of a police officer. He also raised a second objection regarding the signatory to the court documents. He stated that they are signed by one Thomas Safu, who does not indicate whether he is an attorney at the office of the AG or with the police service. He concluded by stating that the current case is of a civil nature and the Attorney General's office has not been named as a defendant. Attorney General Godfrey Adame described the application as completely misconceived and a misunderstanding of the fundamental laws regarding this application. He explained that every step within the context of the Public Order Act is a criminal matter. He continued that under Article 88 of the Constitution, the Attorney General is responsible for the initiation of all civil and criminal matters involving the Republic. He further rebutted a claim that the police service is a separate legal entity. He responded that it's a pure public institution and its office is empowered by law to act on its behalf. Justice Ruby Aite adjourned the matter to June 25 to deliver her ruling. The AG then notified the court of a Facebook post by one Bakavokes calling him a puppet. He indicated that he may initiate appropriate contempt proceedings against such commentary should it continue. Justice Aite urged the AG to ignore such comments. Mr. Dame responded that such comments by persons who are part of the case is not appropriate. The said Facebook handle has since posted yet again, this time explaining that the Public Order Act does not entitle the AG to use the police as puppets. The conveners of the protest are meanwhile hopeful of a favorable court decision on Friday.
On Friday will be the ruling on the preliminary objections before they will have to make their cases. Okay. Now, until then, we don't know. But for us, we're hoping that our legal team have made a good objections, and then that will be taken in good faith by the judge, and then the ruling will be made in that regard.
I suffer as much as the normal Ghanaian suffers, you know, and it's something that's been within my heart. It's sad. It's sad to see Ghanaians not being able to survive. People are living, but they're not able to survive, and it's something that we need to honestly speak about. You know, when we talk about the lack of employment, when we talk about, you know, galamsey, these are things that are happening in the country that I live in, you know, and people have turned a blind eye to it, and I refuse to turn a blind eye to it. I care about Ghanaians. I have family in Ghana. I mean, I could easily be living in New York and living my best life, but I chose to speak for people whose voices cannot be heard.
And so on June 25, should the court uphold the objections raised by the campaigners, it will terminate this particular application that they are restrained from pouring onto the street to protest. On the other hand, should the court dismiss it, it paves way for the substantive legal arguments on whether or not they can go ahead to stage a street protest in the midst of COVID-19 and the imposition of the Restrictions Act, which is still in force. Reporting for JoyNews from the Law Courts Complex, my name is Joseph Akable.
Let's do some politics now. The National Democratic Congress, NDC, is demanding the immediate withdrawal of a petition before the General Legal Council against Dr. Dominic Ayine. The letter written by the Judicial Secretary on behalf of the Chief Justice says Dr. Ayine had allegedly questioned the independence of the judiciary due to the manner of the Supreme Court in which the Supreme Court adjudicated the 2020 election petition. The letter written on the 25th of May 2021 states that the Chief Justice found the comments made during a panel discussion on presidential election petitions and their impact on Africa's democracy disparaging and totally unacceptable. Speaking at a press briefing earlier today, General Secretary of the NDC, Johnson Asiedu Nketia stated that the actions against the party's Bolgatanga East MP is part of a grand scheme to intimidate people who hold different views to that of the Chief Justice.
We wish to reiterate the fact that the invitation of Dr. Ayene to appear before the General Legal Council is yet another attempt by the Chief Justice to intimidate and suppress views that are at variance with his own views. Even if the Chief Justice disagrees with Dr. Ayene's views or deems same as erroneous, the statement made were decorous expressions of opinion about a judgment delivered by the Supreme Court of Ghana and do not warrant professional discipline. Our progressive march as a constitutional democracy will suffer a grave setback if the disciplinary committee of the General Legal Council were to proceed to hold an inquiry into the matter of Dr. Ayene's statements at the CDD event. Our constitution and laws protect the integrity and independence of the judiciary and not the sensibilities of judges. I want to take that again. Our constitution and laws protect the integrity and independence of the judiciary and not the sensibilities of judges. Judicial vanity is a threat to justice and must not be countenanced in any democracy. We therefore join all well-meaning Ghanaians to demand that the Chief Justice withdraws his petition against Dr. Ayene forthwith. We further serve notice that as a political party, we are keenly following events and shall resist any judicial tyranny with all our might.
Johnson Asiedu Nketia is General Secretary for the NDC. Upper West Regional Security Council has banned night transportation of subsidized government fertilizer to Burkina Faso. The measure is among several others employed by the Regional Security Council to curb the smuggling of the produce to neighboring countries. 13,500 bags of subsidized government fertilizer valued at 1,620,000 cedis were smuggled to Burkina Faso on June 8. Chairman of the Upper West Regional Security Council, Dr. Hafiz Bin Sali, has directed all vehicles carrying fertilizer to report at the Upper West Regional Coordinating Council for routine checks. Upper West correspondent Rafiq Salam reports from Tumu.
One major challenge faced by the Planting for Food and Jobs program introduced by government is the smuggling of farm inputs by accredited input dealers into neighboring countries, especially Burkina Faso. In fact, the Upper West region hogged the headlines for the wrong reasons for the sea of subsidized government fertilizer that were smuggled into Burkina Faso by some accredited government input dealers, prompting a visit by the Minister for Food and Agriculture, Dr. Owusu Afriakoto, to the region to put a lid on it.
For me, I could cry. To be honest, I could cry that the government comes into power, brings such unprecedented opportunities for the poorest in society, and the little food that they put into their mouth, you take the food out of their mouth. How wicked can that be? And now Upper West region has this unfortunate title of the smuggling capital of Ghana.
Yeah. 3 years after the visit, it appears some of the accredited input dealers have not turned over a new leaf. The farming season has barely begun in the region, and a total of 13,500 bags of the commodity valued at 1,620,000 Ghana cedis have already been smuggled into Burkina Faso, according to Upper West Regional Minister Dr. Hafiz Bin Sali.
Intelligence got to us that smuggling was taking place, particularly in Sesala West. But we got alarmed when we got information that on the 8th of June this year, about 45 rhino trucks carted fertilizer, each carrying about 300 bags of fertilizer into Burkina Faso. And this is worrying.
Dr. Binsali, who doubles as the chairman of the Ecowas Regional Security Council, addressing input dealers and major stakeholders in the agriculture sector at Tumu, announced measures taken by the Ecowas Regional Security Council to curb smuggling of the government-subsidized fertilizer.
All farm inputs coming into the region must first of all report at my office in Wa, for us to know the vehicle coming, the quantity of fertilizer it is carrying, and the destination of the vehicle. Once they get to either Sisala East or Sisala West, we expect the consignment to be offloaded into a warehouse. We will not allow any long vehicle to be distributing fertilizer. That will not happen again.
There are also timelines to track the movement of vehicles carrying fertilizer.
The movement of vehicles carrying fertilizer is 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Anytime after this, we will confiscate the fertilizer and auction the vehicle.
Dr. Binsali urged all those doing genuine business to continue, but to help face out the miscreants among them.
Those of you doing genuine business, you have nothing to fear. But those of you who engage in nefarious activities, criminal activities, please know that we will come after you.
Reporting for JoyNews, Rafik Salam, Tumu.
And Deputy Director General of Finance and Administration at the Ghana Maritime Authority, Yao Akosa Enchi, is pushing for the country to invest in more surveying of the country's sea floor. He explains without that, the country will continue to lose out on the benefits that we can derive from maritime trade. Speaking at the 100th celebration of World Hydrography Day, Mr. Akosa Enchi noted that adequate data on the topography of Ghana's sea waters will facilitate construction of ports and landing sites, protect maritime environment, and ensure safety of navigation.
The seas and the oceans represent a vast resource for food, minerals, resources, energy, water, biomedicines, and infrastructure, which in turn creates wealth for individuals and nations. Each of these important and growing marine sectors also contributes to the creation of jobs. It is believed that a healthy ocean contributes about $1.5 trillion to the global economy annually and has an estimated net asset value of $24 trillion. However, without good maps and charts of the seas, these benefits will be difficult to realize. Every human activity conducted in, on, or under the seas depends on knowing the topography of the sea floor and the insight into the tides and currents of the seas. Despite this, many parts of the world seas, oceans, and coastal waters remain unsurveyed. This has a major impact on the effective management, sustainable exploitation, and well-informed policing of the seas and the oceans.
Well, you're still watching The Pulse with me, Gifty and Dopia. Time now for us to do some sports here on The Pulse. Do stay, we'll be right back.
Thank you for staying with us on The Pulse. I'm Gary Al Smith, and this is The Sport. Today, as the montage shown or gave you an idea, we are looking at the Euros because the group matches are coming to an end. Group A to F, we are starting to separate the men from the boys, particularly in Group A and B. We'll be also showing you what you should expect from Group C, D, E, and F in this bulletin. First of all, let's begin with Group A. What have the fixtures looked like from the opening game where we had Turkey versus Italy for you on kickoff day? That was on the 11th. Turkey were beaten 3-0 by Italy. Wales then played 1-1 with Switzerland. Take note of that result because I'll explain something very briefly. Wales then went to win 2-0 against Turkey. And in the tables, look at Wales and Switzerland. They seem to have the same number of wins, draw, and losses, but Wales are the ones who are second, and that's because of goal difference. If Switzerland had beaten Turkey by more than 5 goals, they would have been second and Wales would have been third. But as it stands, Switzerland have to wait to be one of the best 4th place teams that will qualify at the end of the group phase. But Italy already gone through. Turkey definitely will go home. In Group B, Denmark 0-1 Finland started as of. That was the game in which Christian Eriksen collapsed. Belgium then dispatched Russia by 3-0. Finland then lost 0-1 to Russia, and Denmark were beaten 2-1 by Belgium. So coming up today, Russia played Denmark. That game is ongoing as we that will be in the evening, sorry. And then Finland will also play Belgium. That will be later this evening as well, 21st of June. This is the way the group stands as we speak. This is before today's matches. Belgium already through. Russia have 3 points. Finland have 3 points, and so the decider will be in there. Denmark as well. Well, we'll see how the cookie crumbles when they finish playing. Group C, North Macedonia 1-0 Austria started us off. The goal from Goran Pandev. The Netherlands were great. They beat Ukraine by 3-0. Ukraine also lost to North Macedonia by 1-0. Netherlands lost to Austria 2-1, but by then they had already gone through. So the rest of the fixtures you saw at the back there will be played, some today. Netherlands also gone through. Ukraine, Austria will slug it out. As we speak, they are playing right now. North Macedonia, we'll see how things pan out for them. In fact, they are the first team to have exited the tournament, North Macedonia. In Group D, England beat Croatia by 1-0. Scotland were 2-0 losers against Czech Republic. Croatia and Czech Republic drew 1-1. England drew 0-0 with Scotland. And Czech Republic play England tomorrow. Croatia at the same time will be playing Scotland also. Now we go to Group E. Well, the results, the tables look like this. Czech Republic and England. Yeah, Croatia and Scotland. It's not as settled as it is in some of the other groups. So, yeah, England definitely would have wanted to win against Scotland to ensure that it was an automatic place for them. In Group E, Poland 1-2 versus Slovakia. Spain drew 0-0 with Sweden. Sweden then went on to beat Slovakia 1-0, and Spain drew 1-1 with Poland last week, Saturday. Slovakia-Spain will be at 4 p.m. on the 23rd. That's 2 days from today. And Sweden versus Poland also at the same time, 2 days from today. What does the table look like for them? Sweden, Slovakia have 4 and 3 points respectively. Spain have 2 points and Poland have 1 point. This group is very, very, very wide open. Even Poland can qualify, even though they are last in the group. In Group F, they call this the group of death. Hungary lost 3-0 to Portugal. France beat Germany by 1-0. Hungary 1-1 against with France, and then Portugal were beaten 4-2 by Germany. Germany versus Hungary is 2 days from today on Wednesday, and Portugal versus France is also at 7 p.m. and we have that game live on Joy Prime. Very big game, Portugal versus France. Make a date with us. So France, Germany, Portugal, Hungary. This also is a very, very open group. So that's the Euro 2020 story so far. Who is your money on? Please join us on our coverage as we bring you highlights across our programs and especially on Joy Prime and live games also on Joy Prime. Remember, we have Portugal versus France. That will be on Wednesday at 7 p.m.
And this is where I say bye-bye to you, but of course we end with Let's Talk Showbiz, which is how we wrap up the entire show. There is more news, by the way, at myjoyonline.com. Do log on, see our top stories and how you can share it with the rest of your contacts so they know what's going on. My name is Gifty Andop here. We're back tomorrow with more here on The Pulse. Do stay with us and have fun.